Welcome to this week's edition of the Casual Shooters Podcast, your premier podcast for the casual shooter. This week's guest is a former Marine Scout sniper, current Leo firearms instructor, professional shooter, and USPSA GM. With all that being said, you might want to get a large cup of coffee for this episode because we've got a lot of ground to cover. And with that, if you would, join me in welcoming Tony Gimmellie to the show. How you doing, Tony?
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me here today.
Hey, thanks for being on.
Glad to be
Now,
here.
if you would, go ahead and take a moment and introduce yourself.
Well, Tony Gimmellie, 10 and a half years in the Marine Corps. Got out in 2001. Went to the Secret Service, did 19 and a half years of Secret Service, and now I'm working with another law enforcement agency as well. I've been a professional shooter since 1994, been sponsored since the early 90s before the PRS and some of these other organizations were around. We've been traveling around the country shooting, and my love and passion is shooting. I mean, I do shooting related stuff from sun up to sundown, being my daily job or my personal training or my active competition shooting.
All right, that was a lot. So that's good because you said a few things in there that quote unquote triggered me. I had to write down some questions. All right, so Tony, what I normally do is I front load the show with the hardest questions.
Okay.
So these first 5 questions are going to be the hardest. Well, normally they're the hardest questions in the show. So they're icebreakers, so everybody gets to know you, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes after that.
Sounds good.
All right, number 1, favorite movie.
Ooh, favorite movie. So being that I'm so active, I don't watch a lot of TV and I don't watch a lot of movies. With that being said, I guess I'll have to go back to probably my classic when I was in the Marine Corps. We were still watching stuff on VHS tapes all the time in the barracks room. It would be Heartbreak Ridge.
Oh, okay. I just read an article about it, how it is one of the top 10 movies lately on Netflix.
That's awesome. I used to watch that movie 5-6 times a month. I just loved it.
Yeah, the whole article was it was very interesting. They even talked about how they went to the Army to do it first, and the Army's like, "No, we don't want any part of it." And the Marine Corps is like, "Sure, come on, let them come on to Pendleton and record everything and make the movie." And then afterwards, they didn't like how they were portrayed. So, but I mean, it's still any media coverage is good media coverage. So,
Absolutely.
now, did you? This is just yes or no right now. We'll get more into it later. But did you go on any deployments?
Yes.
Okay, so that means you've read books. So with that, favorite book?
I would have to say 93 confirmed kills. You know, being a military sniper, we were sitting there reading. I was all about the art of sniping and learning and trying to master my craft. So, I personally spent a lot of time with Colonel Chandler down in Lejeune. I lived like a block and a half away, and when Gunny would come to his house, I spent a lot of time with Mr. Chandler and Gunny and Jim Rightfinger and those guys. And so I got to know a lot of the backside. So I was really interested in actually seeing how the stories portrayed in real life to how they were written.
Okay, very interesting. Now, I don't know if you're I'm not a big superhero guy. If you are, who's your favorite superhero? If not, your favorite historical figure?
I would say if I go superhero, I'd say the Hulk. All right, big guy, big strong guy that likes to destroy things. And anybody that knows me, you put something in my hand, I'm probably going to break it. So I kind of relate to the Hulk.
Oh, so typical Marine. If it has to be Marine proof. So if you can't break it, then it's Marine proof.
Absolutely. I've literally had gun companies that people show up at the range at a shooting match and like, hey, we want you to check this out. And they put it in my hand, and literally 3 seconds later, I'm like, is this thing broken? And they're like, what'd you do with it? I just handed it to you. So I break everything. I can give you a long list.
Wow. Okay. All right. And nobody's ever said the Hawk before, so that's a unique answer.
All right.
Now, your favorite gun and your favorite caliber, and they don't have to be linked together. I had Patrick Garrity on here, another 8541, and I was like, Patrick, just because your favorite gun might be a Barrett doesn't mean your favorite caliber has to be a 50.
All right. Well, so it's interesting. Right now, my heart and soul, my focus in my shooting side of things is long range 22, long range rimfire. That's where I've been focusing real heavy the last couple of years. So my favorite gun right now is probably the Voodoo Gunworks V22 22 long rifle. However, my favorite caliber is going to be the 6.5 Creedmoor. And being the reason that is because myself and my two teammates, Kevin and Rob, when Hornady was bringing out that round, we were the first 3 shooters to bring that cartridge to the long range world. So I have a really close attachment to the 6.5 Creedmoor.
Okay. So we're going to take a moment and get into that then. How in the world, because look, that's my favorite caliber. How in the world were you 3 guys able to bring that we'll just say PRS first?
So it's funny. So myself, Kevin Drake, who's actually my spotter in 3.6, we got out of the Marine Corps. I'd been shooting competitions, and I was transferring to my new job, and I didn't have a lot of time to shoot and compete. I had to kind of put competition on the back burner, and Kevin finally came. He's like, "Hey, we got all these guns and ability. Let's start shooting again." And I'm like, "All right, we'll go out practice next week." And then I got a call. And it was probably 2003. And it was Hornady, and they're like, "Hey, we're here and you're getting back in the competition. We want you on the team." So me and Kevin started running around, and we're the first 2 Hornady shooters in PRS or long range shooting the 178 AMAX. And a couple years go by, and obviously Dennis DeMille helped Hornady design that round for across the course NRA style shooting. And they were working behind the scenes with all that. And our reps at Hornady came over to us and they said, "Hey, what do you guys think? Can you put this into play in the long range precision world?" And at that time, the 243 was where everybody was at. Everybody's gassing up 243s, trying to beat the wind. And we ran the numbers and we said, "Yeah, we can do it." And so it was dragging for a couple of months, maybe a half a year. And it was in the middle of the season. And I just got done talking to Kevin or Rob. And I said, "You know, guys, if Hornady comes and says, 'Hey, let's get this new 6.5 round into the works this year,' I said, it's going to be hard pressed for us to tell one of our major sponsors it's probably too late in the year." And next thing you know, the phone rang and they're like, "Hey, the ammo's done. It's on the way to your house. What barrels do you want? And who do you want to build the guns?" And within a week's time from start to finish, barrels showed up at G&A Precision. George and the crew built us 3 rifles overnight, or within a couple of days. We got them on a Thursday night. Ammo was here. We zeroed at 100, and myself and Kevin went up to Reed Range, Pennsylvania on a Friday, and we took first and second right out the gate, first match with it.
Holy damn. Now, okay, we got to hold off a second here. So you get them on a Thursday night. You're shooting that weekend. So Friday you go to wherever you have a range accessible to you. Did you chronograph the ammo too at the same time so you could run the numbers and know what your trajectory was going to be?
So I used to be in that old school methodology of 100-round break-ins and all these deep break-ins on barrels. And as technology is getting better, I realized, hey, we're just wasting a lot of time, a lot of barrel life. And honestly, I didn't have the time to do it. So I cleaned the gun real quick. I fired 1 round clean. I did it for 5 rounds, and I started shooting 5-round groups. Got it zeroed at 100, chronographed it. I probably had less than 90 rounds through the gun before we showed up at the match. And I'm like, all right, we're going to see what happens. And we were luckily able to make it happen that weekend.
Wow. Okay. Well, we'll to quote the Biden administration, we're going to circle back to that later. All right. Because I have more questions about that and their ELDM. So
okay,
we'll come back. Now, I try to make that last question more tailored to the individual guest. So you've deployed, you've been around shooting everywhere. What's your favorite place you've ever been?
That's tough. So depending on what sport I'm shooting at, there's certain venues I like and love. As a shooter, there's also venues, you shoot really good at some places, and no matter what you do, you go to another place and you're always just chasing your tail. Nothing ever seems to work. But for me, my favorite match there's 2 matches I love, but my favorite is going to be Rio Salado in Arizona. Mesa, Arizona. I love going out there every year to shoot Superstition Mystery Mounted 3-gun. By far one of the coolest 3-gun matches you'll ever shoot, especially for a bay style match.
Okay. Are you just trying to get on Nils' good side?
No, I just love it out there. I mean, a couple of the companies I shoot for out there, Timony, POF, they're all based out of there. I love the weather out there. I got family out there as well, and it's the most peaceful, tranquil place ever. I own retirement property out there, but I don't even know if I'm going to make it out there.
It almost seems like one of those areas I want to call a mecca of shooting. You know.
It is the mecca of shooting. You nailed it. And if there's no reason why if Nils and that whole crew of shooters out there's more grandmaster shooters in the state of Arizona than anywhere else in the country combined. And because they have it down to a science. They shoot a match every single night of the week. All the clubs locally around there, they have it figured out. And you can go every day after work, Monday through Friday, including the weekends, and you can shoot. So those people are getting more reps than any of us could ever dream of getting with perfect weather.
Wow. Yeah, year round. Now, when was the first time you ever shot a gun?
So my dad was not a big gun guy. I never hunted as a child. I had a friend of a family right before I went in the Marine Corps. I'd go rabbit hunting with him. I'd shoot some 22s. As a kid, I had BB guns and pellet guns and stuff like that, and I'd shoot in the backyard all the time at cans and whatnot. But real guns, it was a friend of a family, and we were rabbit hunting and shooting 22s.
Okay, now that's interesting. So you weren't necessarily, I mean, you had friends that had guns, so you were exposed in that regard. But I look at the Marine Corps as just a big gun club. And what made you decide you were going to join the Marine Corps?
So it was interesting. As a kid, I had a good friend down the street from me, my buddy Greg. We used to run around in the woods. We used to watch every war movie that ever came out. His father was in the Army. We had a Marine that lived down the street, Mick, who was a close friend of ours, and he used to give us all his old gear and stuff like that. And we'd put on the gear and go in the woods and patrol and work on the craft of, patrolling and stuff like that. And I always had a dream like of going into the Marine Corps or in the military, but I really wasn't sure if I really wanted to stay in the military. My goal initially was to go to play baseball. I was a good baseball player. I was going to go to UNLV and play baseball. And at the time, I was like, I hate school. I hate studying. I'm probably going to fail out. And I decided to chase my dream and be a Marine. And here I am, 30 years later. Glad I made that choice and made that route because it really set me up for success my whole life.
Yeah, it got you where you are now.
Yeah.
Now, when you joined, what did you join to do?
Another funny story. Walked in. I was sitting with my best friend, still my best friend to this day. I've known him since I was 6. We were in study hall, and he's like, "Dude, what are we going to do with our life?" So I was like, "I don't know. I don't want to go to UNLV because I think I'm going to fail out. I'm never going to make it through there. I don't know. I'm thinking about joining the Marine Corps. What do you think? Or join the military?" He goes, interesting. And he went home that night, and I guess he walked into the recruiter's office and got the whole lowdown. Next day, he showed up to school. He goes, "All right, I got the skinny. We're going in 0311, 6-year guaranteed grunts." And I'm like, "What?"
My gosh.
I'm like, "Okay, I guess that's the thing."
Tony's gone.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's like, "Yeah, I got it set up. We're going buddy program. We're going infantry, and we're going to get promoted meritorious to Lance Corporal." He gave me the whole rundown. I'm like, "Okay, sounds good. Let's do it." And we went to the recruiter's office that night. We walked in, and they looked at us like, "Who are these two suckers? I just got 2 6-year contracts with no effort." And
Right.
right. And so, but no, our goal was, and we trained the whole year prior to us going to boot camp or in delayed entry. Both of our goals was to go to recon. That's all we cared about. We swam all summer. We ran. We were treading water. We did everything to prepare, and we had really good recruiter. We had been studying our BST and all our general orders, and I mean, we were super prepared. When we went to boot camp, I mean, I'm not going to say we laughed our way through all of it. But we knew a lot of the games that were coming, and I was just, we made the best of it. We knew it was just a game to try to break us, so we were prepared.
Okay. Did you guys do the delayed entry then?
Yeah, delayed entry. We were in the same boot camp platoon, and then we went to SOI, and at that time we had to go through MCT and then SOI. And then prior to the night prior to going to take the reconnaissance in Doc, he had just had a baby a couple months before, and he woke up that morning. He says, "No, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to be away from my family and friends." I think they put the scare into him, and he decided he wasn't going to take the indoc. And I was ready to go. He's like, "No, go do it." And I'm like, "Hey, we're both got orders at 3-2," and I'm thinking like, "Hey, I'm 19 years old, 18 years old at the time. What better to go to a unit and be in the same place as my best friend? We could travel home on the weekends, and you had somebody there." So I didn't take the indoc that morning, and we both ended up in 3-2 together.
Well, so you guys went in under the buddy program.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually, so funny story, haha. I actually went in to do recon and took the NDOC and then went to recon and then became a sniper later. Very funny. Now,
Well,
so you go to 3-2, 0311?
0311, Lima Company. We get there. The battalion's gone. They're in Trondheim, Norway, doing cold weather training. And back at that time in the 90s, 3-2 was known as the criminal battalion. And I think under General Gray, what they were doing is that was when they were trying to weed out all those guys out of the Marine Corps for drug use, and DUI was really big, and they were throwing people out. Well, unbeknownst to us, 3-2 was where they stuck all the bad people they wanted to get out of the Marine Corps, and they made it a non-deployable unit. So we were in this unit with all these derelicts and weirdos, right? And I mean, the stories I could tell you from 3-2, like my buddy Phil, like all of a sudden he's missing. I'm like, where's Phil? And I'd walk down the catwalk, and he's tied up in a room and taped to a chair, and they're beating him up. And you didn't go on the other side of the barracks at night, and people are shooting. Like it was the Wild West in Lima Company and Weapons Company 3-2 back in the day.
Whoa. Okay.
Yes. And basically, they kept us on air alert, so these guys couldn't drink. They kept us in the field all the time. I mean, it was literally like being in prison in that unit. And then after they weeded all those people out, they just for a whole year and a half backfilled the battalion with all these young Marines and rebuilt the battalion. And then finally, we started to get to do real training and start to deploy and do stuff. So it was pretty interesting.
Holy cow. So how long did it take to go from craziness to this is what I joined for?
Well, we were doing cool things and we were training. We were in the field doing the things I thought we were going to do. I just didn't understand why we were always locked down in the barracks or in the field for 20, 30, 40 days at a time. And it made sense. They wanted to stop these guys from being able to drink and and do whatever they were doing. They had control on them when they're in the field. Hey, go patrol in the woods. What can you hurt? And so once they processed all these people out of the Marine Corps, then it was able to open up and actually be a true infantry battalion again.
So how long were you in 3-2 before you took the Scout Sniper NDOC?
So they had come back from Norway, and I think it was like 2 or 3 months later, we had our first battalion field meet. And we're out there watching the field meet, and we're at the O course, and everybody's doing the O course, watching them, we're cheering each other around. And then all of a sudden, these guys from H&S Company go, and they fly through this O course like superheroes. They're doing flips and rolls, and they burn through the course. I'm like, holy shit, who are those dudes? And they're like, oh, that's Stay Platoon. I'm like, Stay Platoon? Who the hell is that, and what are they? And he goes, those are the Scout Snipers. I said, I want to be one of them. And so a day later, I found H&S Company, found Stay Platoon, and I said, I want to be one of you guys. And they're like, good, get ready. There's an NDOC in a couple weeks, and here's a packing list and a gear list, and we'll see you then. Did the NDOC, and I was there later. So I only spent maybe 3 months, 4 months max in the line company before I was in Stay.
Okay. All right. That's not too bad then.
No, I wasn't.
The way the story started, I was like, oh my God, this guy was stuck in this unit for 2 years and then finally got to do something.
No, it was a good time. I got lucky. I definitely got lucky.
Okay. So I assume then you passed the NDOC.
Yep.
Now, did you go to the Scout Sniper basic course?
Yep, I went to Stone Bay.
Okay. So then now did they have a pre-sniper course when you were in 3-2?
So we did it. I literally went. We were going to the rifle range. I was actually in the butts on Charlie range with the platoon sergeant. And instead of pulling butts, I was actually in the target shed making my ghillie in the target shed while they were pulling butts the whole time. Literally, they fire hosed me all this information, showed me what I needed to know, and it was less than 2-3 weeks later after we got back from rifle range. I'm in school. Boom.
Wow. Okay.
It happened fast for me, real fast.
Now, do you remember any of what year was that?
So we were talking 92, 93 time frame. That was when, I don't know if you remember Gunny Ronk, Orville Ronk. He was charged of the schoolhouse. I think Miller was down there. Another guy by the name of Carter. Those were some of the older names.
I was at the schoolhouse at Quantico from 91 to 94. So Ronk sounds somewhat familiar, but I don't want to say for sure.
Ronk ended up going in like 95, 96 time frame up to HRP.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So
Langdon and
he,
them.
yeah, he was over there. So that's my buddy Phil that I joined in the buddy system. He ended up working away up to HRP, and he was up there with Gerdman and Langdon and all those guys at HRP.
Okay. All right. Wow. Small world.
Yeah.
Did you make it to Quantico at all?
Yeah, I went to advanced sniper school in 2000 in Quantico.
Okay. Funny story. It was our instructor crew cadre that changed it from the instructor course to the advanced course.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
that was
Good
us.
history.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I wrote the radio wave propagation, aerial photography class, a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay,
So
cool.
the ballistics class, I did the ballistics, the aerial photography, the radio wave propagation, a whole bunch of stuff. But it was all cool. That's all good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so you go to the basic course. Obviously, you pass. And so that's early in your career then.
Correct.
And you spend the rest of your time in a state platoon?
Nope. So I, went with 3-2. We ended up going to Okinawa, come back from Okinawa. We go on our first med float. We did the 50th anniversary of D-Day celebrations over there in
Oh, wow.
England and France. So that was kind of cool. And then we bounced all around the med. From there, we went down the Suez Canal, south coast of Somalia for 45 days. Thought we were going in, doing the final pullout. Sat there watching it. Nope, we're sitting around. Let's go to Kenya. We're going to Mombasa, Kenya, doing long range comm shots and stuff. Come back to the boat, and all of a sudden we're steaming north. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And we watched the news because at that time, remember, we only had one or two channels on the TV, right? So we had CNN. And all of a sudden, we see the California Mew going in, doing the final pullout as we're going back up north. I'm like, oh, really? So yeah, we missed a boat on that one too, so to speak.
It's all about timing.
Yep, it is.
I was at the schoolhouse with, I don't know if you know Bill Skiles.
Oh yeah.
My God, that guy's timing is impeccable. If there was a chance that he would have done it, he did it because it was just weird timing how he was always in the right place at the right time to do stuff. Crazy.
So Skiles is a name I always knew about. He's that one of those legendary guys you hear about him. Most of his time was on the West Coast for me. And literally last year, he joins my local gun club over here, and I'm the range safety officer. And I got this guy in the list, William Skiles. I'm like, wonder who he is. So I pull in, park my truck, and I got my long-range death sniper sticker on the back of my truck. And I get out and I look, and there he is, got a sniper sticker on the back of his truck. I'm like, oh, hey, what platoon were you with? He goes, all of them. I'm like, all of them? I'm like, who the hell is this guy, right? And he goes, I'm like, what's your name again? He goes, Bill Skiles. I'm like, oh, Gunny Skiles. Well, Master Sergeant. Oh, okay, I got you good. So yeah, so I ended up running into him here at my local gun range, and we see each other from time to time. So it's, once again, small world, and people that you heard or know about, or legendary people inside the sniper program, we link up somewhere.
Yeah, now retired Sergeant Major.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a good guy. We had a great time at the schoolhouse. Probably the best time ever in my life. Now,
yep. So going from there, I left from there, and then I from 3-2. My first sergeant's like, "You've been here too long. You got to go." He's like, "You got to go someplace non-deployable." I'm like,
you're being
no.
evicted.
Yeah, I was being. He's like, "You're not going to any more schools. You've been doing too many schools. You got to do it for your career." So I call the monitor. I got orders. I go to Fast Company. So I go right to. I got orders. I'm going to Fast Company. So he was pissed that I went deployable again, and went up to Fast Company. I was there 2 weeks. We took off. Went to Haiti 2 weeks after being in Fast Company. Spent some time up there. Then I went to CQB school and jump school, and the CQB school, Marine Corps Security Force Training Company, called over and said, "Hey, we want you and a couple guys to come over here as instructors." So I went and became a CQB instructor from Marine Corps Security Force Training Company. And then I was getting close to being promoted to staff sergeant, and I'm like, I want to go operational as a sniper one more time before I get out. And so I called the monitor again. I got orders to 3-6 because they were locking on, and I went to 3-6 and went back there as a chief scout. We did another med float, came back, and then that's when I decided it was probably time to get out. I wanted to go recruiting duty, and my first sergeant blocked me. He's like, "Nope, you're taking this sniper platoon back to the Med next year." And I'm like, "Nope, I'm going to get my meritorious promotion. I'm going to go get my B billet knocked out." And he called the monitor and blocked me. And yeah, and so here I am, want to go recruiting and do my next step in my career, and he blocked me. And it's kind of the light switch came on and said, maybe the Marine Corps really isn't there for me, as or my family. And I started exploring some options, and next thing you know, I got hired, and that was it. I was gone 9 months later.
Wow. Okay. So if that guy hadn't blocked you, you probably would have stayed in for 20 then.
I probably would have never got out. Yep, because my platoon, September 11th happened, and 3-6 went into Kandahar, took down Kandahar Airport, and they took down Kandahar Airport, and did all the initial stuff in Afghanistan. So yeah, I would have been right there in the thick of things.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Interesting how one little decision can change how things go for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, people to this day that I was real close to in the platoon, and some people in 3-6, to this day, they don't even talk to me. They could not believe that I got out. I was, they were like, "Oh, you're a lifer. You love this so much. You're just so gung ho about doing everything." And I loved what I did. I mean, it was not just a job; it was a hobby, a passion, and I was all in. And then, like I said, I wanted to finish up my career, and ideally, I wanted to get to Quantico. I wanted to follow in guys like you, footsteps. I was in that cycle where I would have came back from my B billet and probably been able to go to Quantico, to the instructor schoolhouse, and that's what I was looking at doing and moving my career forward. And then it kind of got dashed by this, and I'm like, nah. I've been in 3-6 now almost 2.5, 3 years, and I've been going like every bit but 3 months between schools and deployments, and I'm like, I need a break.
Okay. Yeah, that makes kind of sense. I get that. Now, I was going to ask you what made you get out, so I'm glad you went through all of that. But before we get into what you started when you got out, I want to go, now this is where I want to kind of go back a little bit. And you said you have been, because I wrote it down, a sponsored shooter since 1994.
Yep.
Okay. So now I was at the schoolhouse at Quantico, and I didn't know any of this stuff had existed. So explain to me how you became a sponsored shooter and what you were doing while you were active duty.
So I always have, never shot guns before in my life. Got to the big green gun club, in guns, shooting well, loving it, just eating it up, and seemed to come to me naturally. I was good at what I did. At that time, IDPA was coming out at the time. I wasn't a big fan of, IPSC. This was right at the beginning where USPSA was there. I'm like, that's kind of goofy. These guys using red dots on scopes. That's cheesy. So I started shooting some IDPA. Obviously, being a Marine sniper, I wanted my own rifle. So I went to the PX and I bought me a Remington 700 VSSF. And had some little bit of work done by some local people, and threw a loophole scope on there, and started shooting on my own, practicing. And then these sniper competitions came up, and a guy in the CQB schoolhouse with me, James Dills, and me, he was another Marine sniper. We went up and shot at Storm Mountain, West Virginia. We shot the first inaugural Gunny Hathcock Memorial Sniper competitions, and we went up there and shot that. And I met some guys up there. They were from Alabama. One was a police chief. Another guy was working for a gun company called Atauga Arms out of Prattville, Alabama. And Rusty Rossi was another Marine. He transferred into the Army, and he did a bunch of stuff involved with the Iran-Contra stuff. The guy's got an awesome background in history and knows everybody under the sun. And I met them, and clicked right away and became good friends. And he grabbed me in the parking lot and he says, "Hey, I want to take your rifle back to the shop. I want to clean this thing up. You're a great shooter, and I want you to come shoot for our company." And so they took my rifle back, fixed it all up, rebarreled it, all this work on it, sent it back to me, no charge. And then he calls me and he says, "Hey, I'm going to build you a new rifle. You're going to shoot for Atauga Arms." And they built me one of their custom Atauga Arms rifles, Pelican case. They sent me a case of Federal Gold Medal 308 ammo every month. And whenever we had a match, they sent me 2 cases. And I'm like, hey, this is the life. And we started traveling around the country. You know, there was only a couple matches. They're like, hey, we're hosting the Super Sniper Shootout at Camp Shelby, Mississippi. 100 and some teams from all over the world. You know, big cash payouts. Is a 5-day match, and so we started shooting that every year. And then you know, guys like Thomas Blahnik, who started Snipers High, started running a match down in Brownsville, Texas. And then Jacob Bynum, who started Rifles Only. And so that was the crew of people I ran with. And there's some pictures of us shooting the original, like, sniper comps with like 10 and 12 guys in southern Texas in the heat of July and August down there. And so that's when it started. And, you know, we're launching 308s at 1,000 yards and, you know, watching them curve in half a mile in the South Texas winds.
Yeah, wow. You had to have a lot of mirage.
Yeah, it was insane, the amount of mirage. And then it was so bad, our 168s, the winds were beating us up so bad, we ran out to the local store to go try a gun shop just to find 175s, and we found 2 cases of 175s, and we went out there and got data, and we were shooting them past 800 because we didn't have enough to shoot the whole match with them. So we just needed doing anything we could to get a little bit heavier bullet to beat some of that wind.
Wow, that's nuts.
But that's when that was the beginning of all these long-range sniper competitions back in the day. That's where it all started. And, you know, you go back and you look at Jacob Bynum with, you know, he started the International League of Riflemen and these point series and stuff like that. And it really didn't catch on because we didn't really have the internet yet. It was just starting to come on board. So we didn't have, you know, the ability to market and get the stuff all over the country to everybody. And so now we have that ability, and things have grown drastically with so many different leagues and series out there.
Dude, when I got out in December of 94. Email had just come to Weapons Training Battalion, and the only people that had them were staff NCOICs and officers. That was it. Well, and they would have to go to a certain computer to get on to log in to check it out.
And if you think about it, that's when the company office only had one computer for the clerk, right? There wasn't a computer in every office and desk. The company clerk was the only guy on a computer because, hell, none of us knew how to use a computer.
And we were using WordPerfect.
Yep.
And DOS.
Well, that's what I started creating my sniper data books for Impact Data Books. I would go in the company office, and I was like, all the data books that were on the market were just terrible for what we did and didn't have all the right information and stuff in it. So I'd go in the company office after hours and get on there and use Paint, MS Paint, and I would create my own little data books for my platoon, and that's what we were using for data books.
Interesting. I ended up getting out. This is going to be a lot of people are going to be like, why are these guys? These guys are just having a conversation about their past. But when I got out, I partnered with a guy in Houston for a couple of years and was training law enforcement snipers and stuff. And I created, at that time, next to the Inertal, my favorite scope was the Leopold Mark IV. And I drew it to perfect ratio on WordPerfect because at that time, because it was more DOS based, I could literally use the arrow keys, and I measured everything out, and one tap of the arrow was 1 millimeter. So I could literally tap out exactly, go left this many, go up this many, go right this many. So it was a perfect scale replica of the Leopold Mark IV. And then I just made I made a whole user's manual for students because the one that Leopold was giving out to me was insufficient at the time. So very interesting. And I created a sniper handbook and that we were giving her out at the school at the time. And I created a data book. So we have a lot of things in common and we had no idea about.
That's pretty interesting. That's cool.
It is. All right. So that's very interesting it's interesting you were able to shoot those matches each year. You obviously had to take annual leave for those week-long trips. But even then, for them to be able to fall in between training and deployment and this and that is pretty wild. That's because that would have, as you were talking, I'm like, every year, I was like, there's no way with the tempo that I was at in the recon unit. I was like, there's no way I'd have been able to do that.
Yeah, we shot Super Sniper Shoot, I think 3 years in a row. Then I ended up missing one because of a deployment, and I think that's the last year they ever ran it. But it was a huge draw, cops from all over the country. Back then, matches were much different. We shot a lot of precision paper. There was very few steel stages like we shoot now in competition, where almost everything is steel. Back then, you get 50 guys on a relay, and you fire X amount of rounds in a time period or whatever the drills were. But it was a lot of paper precision drills, and they were fun drills. And those drills and stuff that I used to take back to my platoon. And you got to think, the way we trained in the Marine Corps, we spent a lot of time on our belly, right? We all thought we were going to be on our belly all the time. There wasn't a lot of positional and alternate shooting. And it allowed me to go back to my platoon and change how I trained, because I was, one, practicing for my matches and competitions, but it also made sense to me that, hey, we're kind of behind the power curve in the sniper program, that we're always worried about being on our belly and going to be able to find a position and creep up and get there. And I'm like, no. And so I started getting my guys off their bellies and shooting off of, tripods and other small stuff. Back then we were, not the tripods we have today.
Sticks.
Sticks, or field expedient tripods, or little $20 plastic camera tripods that we were buying at Walmart, and you're on a stalk site and it's breaking on you. Or just getting them shooting off their pack or getting off their belly and shooting high in positions. And my guys were mad at me for a while. They're like, this sucks. This is bullshit. We can't hit anything. We're not as accurate this way. I get it. But you're going to thank me later. And then after like a couple months of doing it, they started getting good and really good. And then it came back and they're like, thanks for pushing me. Thanks for getting me out of my comfort zone and getting me off my belly. And I took them to a different level. And we had some really, really good shooters because we were thinking outside the box and training to a different level. So, the precision rifle world at the time did help us operationally due to things we were doing, even though I did get a nasty phone call from Gunny Owens back in the day.
I know Gunny Owens. Okay.
Yeah, so that was a pretty interesting conversation. I'm sure it'll be good for this cast. So I get a call to get over to the company office. I got a phone call in the duty hut. And I'm like, oh, who the hell's calling me? So I go in the duty hut, pick up the phone, it's Gunny Owens. And at that time, I was a sergeant. He's cursing me up and down. Who the hell do you think you are, going out there shooting these sniper competitions? Nobody needs to know what Marine snipers are doing, this, that, and the other. Well, come to find out, Soldier of Fortune was there and took some pictures of us and put us in Soldier of Fortune. And we didn't have our blouses on with name tags or stuff. They just said Marine snipers. Didn't give our name. We just had, our T-shirt on and our BDUs on. And stuff like that. And he was flipping out on me. And I was like, listen, Gunny, what I do in my free time for recreational is my business. I said, not to be disrespectful, I'm going to do what I want to do. It's helping me train, it's making me a better sniper, and it's helping my platoon out. So I'm sorry you don't agree with me. And he cursed me out a little bit more and hung up.
Yeah, I assume that was SOTG Owens.
Yep, SOTG Owens.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know the guy.
Yep.
We can talk more off the air.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's cool. That's very interesting because, like you said, I mean, there was no internet, so it was all, if you didn't see it in a magazine or something, there was no way to know. So that's the part that intrigued me the most when you were talking was, wait a minute, sponsored since '94, and he's been I'm like, where in the world did he find out about these things? So that makes sense.
Yep, Batog Arms is a great little company out of Prattville, Alabama. They lasted forever. I mean, they took great care of us shooters. There's only about 4 or 5 of us on the team, and no matter where we went, they paid for everything. If I was developing film, getting a pack of gum, they wouldn't let me pay for a thing. And
wow.
I owe a lot to them for trusting and believing in me and giving me all that ammunition to practice. And it kept my goals as competing in competition just flowing, and it never stopped since then.
I know the name. Are they still in business?
No, they went out of business probably 96, 97 time frame.
Okay. The name definitely sounds familiar, though. So, all right. So you started being, so when did, okay, hold on a second. When did Hornady make you a sponsored shooter?
2003.
Okay, so it wasn't until after you, but okay, well, hold on, though. You said they called you and you said, I heard you're getting back into the game of shooting. Yep. So they knew you before then.
Yep. So what happened was, and it's all this stuff is weird how things happen. One of the managers at Ataga, he lives in Texas, called me out of the blue and says, "Hey, what have you been up to? What have you been shooting? What have you been up to?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm settling in my new job. I haven't been shooting in the last couple of years. I took a little bit of a break." I said, "My spotter and me are grabbing our guns. We're going to start going out and practice and do this." And he goes, "Well, hey, I got somebody that's going to give you a call." And he's the one that tied me into Hornady. So I don't know what his tie is or who he knew at Hornady, but someone had called him and said, "Hey, we're looking for some shooters." And he threw on my name. And at that time, it was Neil Davies. Do you know Neil Davies?
I know the name.
Yep. So
I don't
Neil
know him
Davies,
personally.
another reconnaissance Marine, another Marine Scout sniper, calls me instantly, click together and basically like, "Hey, whatever you need." And next thing you know, ammo's flowing away and we're shooting and competing.
Man, I must have had my head under a rock. That's horrible. All good, though. All good. Good for you. All right, so you get out in 2001. There's a 2-year gap in there, so I guess you made the comment that you got, it sounded like you said you got hired for a job before you got out of the Marine Corps.
Yep, got hired by the Secret Service, and so
Okay.
went to Glencoe, went through training, came back, was moving to the D.C., Virginia, Baltimore area up here, fast pace, a lot of traffic, trying to learn the job,
Oof.
get settled in, moving a family, learning everything that goes on with the job, and so it just working tons of hours. I mean, the work tempo is ungodly with that agency. And, I just put my nose to the grind and working, 40, 50 hours of overtime every 2 weeks, doing 80 hours plus 40 or 50 in overtime, just making mad cash, getting settled in and finally kind of weaned it back down. And, we were getting ready to go into my first campaign when I got in there. So, a lot of people had left and gone to the air marshals right after September 11th. So there was a lot of holes in personnel at the time. So we were working a lot, so it just wasn't conducive for me to start shooting. And then finally, once I got in that routine and got a little seniority and could kind of get the weekends off where I could, I had Fridays and Saturdays off. I stayed as a swing officer, so I could get Fridays and Saturdays off, and it allowed me to at least compete, a little bit here and there, 1-day matches, or if I wanted to shoot a 2-day, I'd have to take a leave or vacation.
Okay. And then in 2003, so about 2 years into your job, and I assume it's uniform division?
Yep, I went uniform division.
Okay. So 2 years in, you decide you're going to get back into shooting. So I guess it was back into long range shooting again?
Yep, it was going right back into long range, which was my true love and hobby and my passion. And then, like I said, I talked to a couple different people, told a couple other guys I'm getting back into it. So I get a call from Hornady. Then I got a call from a company called Alamo Four Star. They made a whole bunch of tripod units and stuff, and they came out with an item called the Level Grouse, which is very similar to, well, it had the patent as this, what's being sold now as the Send It Level. Me, Kevin, and Rob showed up using them, and people were like, "What the hell is this little electronic bubble level you're using?" and mocking us. And it was a great tool, but I found that I was wasting a lot of time on the clock trying to level it, and I'm like, I don't need this thing. And so I didn't use it as much as I should have, and it didn't kind of play off. And then here we are 15, 20 years later, the Send It levels are popular items. So, I've got the original ones of those over here in the safe, so I've been really fortunate to fall into a lot of companies, and people knew who I was as a shooter, and my ability to market and sell product and be approachable at matches and stuff like that. So, which makes me a great ambassador, and like I like to talk and I'm friendly as well as I hold my own at these matches. So it was a great combination for these companies.
Now, when you got back into shooting, what did you start with when you got back? Before Hornady approached you about the 6.5, what were you shooting?
So, not knowing anything else about too many other calendars, I went back to Old Faithful, the 308. Ataga Arms, when they brought us on board, they're like, "Hey, we'll give you a 3-year deal. We'll build you a new rifle. What do you want?" Gave them the specs. Yeah, I only at that time I only shot Surgeon Actions. I was sponsored by Surgeon. I was real good friends with the owner of Surgeon at the time. And at that, Terry Cross built all my guns back in the day. I got a lot of KMW guns in the safe. I got super early single digit serial numbers, Surgeons in there. And so I'm like, hey, another Surgeon. We put barrel on there, got a 308, and we started shooting the 178 AMAX. Hornady started pumping ammo our way. We started loading 178s, and away we went.
All right, I'm going to get nerdy on you then. All right, so what barrel length and barrel twist did you go with shooting the 178s?
So we went 24 inches,
I like it.
and I don't remember what twist we went with them. I think we stayed.
Go ahead.
I think we just standed. It was either 1 and 10s, 1 and 12s. I don't remember what we had. I think 12.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I like the 1 in 10s for anything over 168, but that's just my personal preference. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. So at the time when me and Kevin first went out, we were the only guys shooting Hornady ammunition in competition. Everybody was shooting, Sierras and DTACs and everything else, and everybody's looking at us like, who are these Team Hornady shooters? Well, at the end of the year, everybody that was shooting 308 had switched over to 178s, and Hornady was like, holy cow, we couldn't believe how many people had switched over. And I think, they went back and they were like, hey, what's your load? And so we loaded up a bunch of our stuff and sent it over to the factory for them to test. And they called back, they're like, holy hell, you guys load hot. This stuff is hot. We can't sell it like this. So the actual 178 load the Botel load that they use came off of what we were loading, but they backed it down a whole lot to keep it in Sammy's specs. But it was funny. They were gonna use our load. They're like, we can't sell this thing. It's hot. You guys don't get any sticky bolts. I'm like, no, we're good.
So it's 178 plus P.
They were hot. Yeah, we pushed some stuff to the limits, and we start running numbers and looking at stuff, and we ran them hot. And then, like I said, the 6.5 came on, and at that time we had already added my other teammate Rob, so it was like the three of us. We were like the three amigos running around. And then the 6.5 came out, and we showed up, shot that match, and then we went to Arizona. And I'll never forget, George Gardner came up to us, and he's like, what kind of silly round are you guys firing now? Like the 6.5 Creedmoor. He's like, why? Why are you guys playing with this? We're all shooting 243s, la, 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 la. And then everybody started talking to us about it, like, well, why would you shoot this? Why would you switch out of the 243s? And I'm like, listen, I said, for the price of 1,500 rounds of Hornady 6.5 Creedmoor is the same as what you're paying for 1,000 rounds of federal gold medal. Everybody can't get the ammo or the brass, so these guys that want to load it, they're paying people a buck a casing, so you could sell your 1,500 casings if you don't reload to somebody that reloads, and you can almost buy half your ammo back. I said, all you got to do is go get your barrels screwed off, put a new barrel on your gun, and away you go. You don't got to change anything. And they were all laughing at the beginning, and it wasn't a month later. And by the end of the year, it was amazing how many people had screwed off those 308 barrels and went to the 6.5 Creedmoor. And I'll never forget when we go to SHOT Show and walk in the booth, go up to Mr. Hornady and walk in to go say hello. And I remember that first year he came out of the booth and he walked up and we were saying hello, and he gave me a hug. And he goes, I can't thank you enough for what you did for us. I'm like, sir, you don't have to thank us. I said, we appreciate what you do for us and allow us to compete and have a great time. And, we always had a great relationship ever since then.
All right. So now I want to talk about the AMAX versus the ELDMs, because I guess when they started doing their Doppler radar, they learned there was an issue with the AMAX tips. So they switched the material and went to the ELDMs. You still shoot 6.5 Creed?
So I'm shooting a lot of 6GT now. That's my cartridge of choice now. So I'm shooting 6GT. I shoot the 108 ELDMs in there. So I never had any problems with any of the 6.5 ammo and A tips. However, the 105 A tips, I was shooting. I went and shot an F class match at Quantico, and I was killing it. 10xxx. Call for a mark, no idea, no impact. What? How am I missed the whole target carriage, right? And went on like off and on all day, right? I had all these misses. I'm like, there's no way I missed the carriage, right? So I get home, and me and Kevin were at the range, and we were shooting these 105s at the range and trying to see what's going on with them. And he goes, He goes, aim in down range, take your face off the gun, and look about 20 yards down range. And I looked down range, and boom, they were blowing up 25, 30 yards down range. So we were spinning them so fast and shooting them so hot, we were tearing the bullets apart. And so that might have been, the people that did probably have problems with them, they might have even been shooting them just over that threshold or twisting them and spinning them too fast, and they were just coming apart. But a lot of people know if you go all the way up to the new A-tip line that Hornady offers now, it was a progression. They went to the ELDs, the ELDMs, and then it progressed into the A-tip. And that was all, they were using the technology and the testing to get their way to the A-tip. So that's how they got to the A-tip.
The aluminum tip. Yeah. Now, and for those people listening, when he says carriage, the size of the carriage is 6 foot by 6 foot. So he's saying, and in F class, an X ring is a half minute of angle and a 10 ring is a minute of angle. So to hit a half minute of angle at whatever yard he was, and then to miss a 6 foot by 6 foot target, I can see why he would be baffled. So, yeah. Wow. Okay. Very interesting. So obviously they've cured that problem, and the Doppler radar, I guess, showed that too. I think they were saying too that, if I remember correctly from some of their, I've had Seth and Jaden on. We did it we had an episode a year ago. I talked to them at SHOT Show again this year, but they're pretty busy, so getting them on might take an act of Congress. But but it was interesting too that they were saying the Doppler showed even if they didn't come apart after about 800 yards, they started becoming unstable. So it's good that they. I mean, it's quality ammunition. I love it. So.
Yep, it's been great for us. We've had great success, and even the factory 6.5. I still have some of the original lots, test lots that they had sent us.
Wow.
And we had went back to the loading bench, me, Kevin, and Rob, and we're all great reloaders and got these great facilities. And we went in there and we was like, all right, let's go in there and see, can we make it any better? And we can get it going a little bit faster. We can move it a little bit hotter, but nothing that was worth spending the time on the bench. So I was like, screw it. I ain't loading 6.5. I'm just going to, get the factory stuff sent to me each year and save that time off the bench and shoot. So most of the 6.5 I've ever shot in competition, I would say probably 98% to 99% of it was all factory loaded stuff. And then there was guys at the beginning like, there's no way that this is you're shooting factory ammo. There's no way you're putting it back in the factory boxes. And they would be standing there with a case of ammo, and I'd have my case. I said, here, take mine. I'll take yours. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'll trade you cases. Let me just go 0. I'll shoot this weekend. And they're like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, I guess you aren't loading this up. So they thought we had our own special lot and everything else. I'm like, no, shooting factory stuff just like you.
Now, when you do load, how long is it a single?
Single
Action
stage
system?
test?
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. So as you see behind me, I got probably
A
6
lot.
presses in here.
Yeah.
I got one that's set up for 40 cal for USPSA. The center Dillon is an auto drive set up for 9 mil. It does 1,200 rounds an hour. So I have that set specifically for 9 mil. The other one over that shoulder, nope, I can't get it right. That shoulder is my 223. I have that just for my 3-gun 223 ammo. The other one, let's see if I can get it right. That one, there we go, I got it. That's my amp annealing machine. So I got a whole setup for my amp. And then I have 3 single stage presses over here for different loading stuff. I got a Hornady Classic that I use. I got a 0 press over here as well, and a RCBS rock chucker. So I run my ammo in batches of 500 rounds. So when I'm bored, like a night tonight, when I'm just kind of chilling out waiting to go shoot this weekend, I might come in here and pull levers and size brass all night. And another night I might be in here listening to music and priming. So I like to work my ammo in batches of 500.
So are you single?
No.
I mean, with as much time as you spend in there, I'm like, this guy's got to be single.
No, I'm going to tell you what, my wife is an angel. She has put up with me competing and shooting. I literally shoot every single weekend. I either shoot 1 to 2 matches almost every single weekend for 20 some odd years. Anybody, sponsor shooters or not, people think that we get rich off the shooting. The companies do a lot for us. I can never have done and chase my dreams and goals and ambitions as a sponsor shooters without the support of these companies. They all do enough to keep us out there. I spend a lot of money out of pocket still to compete and shoot. I do it for the love of the game. I love competing. I love shooting. I'm out every weekend. I want to shoot and win every weekend. And, it doesn't work every weekend. But a bad day of shooting is better than a good day at work. and I just enjoy competing. But she supports me. She takes care of the stuff around the house. She does a lot of things that lets me get away with being gone on birthdays and holidays, and I'll be shooting on Mother's Day again this weekend. But I find ways to make it up, and shooting is opened up a lot of doors for not only me as a competitor, but for my family. It's done a lot to get me where I'm at today.
Okay. Now, how did you make the at what point did you say, I'm going to shoot pistol?
So it always was that I love to shoot. Rifles always and always will be my love and passion. Then I got into IDPA, and I liked going fast. I like shooting fast. I like the concept of defensive pistol. I carried concealed. I had my concealed permit when I was in the Marine Corps and stuff like that. So I was like, hey, security, protecting my family. And then I was shooting a lot of rifle stuff, and I had a lot of buddies that shot 3-gun. And they're like, oh, you got to shoot 3-gun. There's so much money in 3-gun. You do so great. I'm like, I can't do another sport. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And they beat me up for a couple of years. And finally, there was a match close to me in Virginia. It was the original first Blue Ridge 3-gun championship. And everybody's like, we're sending you a scope. We're sending you this. Bring this, do that. And I showed up and shot my first 3-gun match. And I did really, really good. And everybody's like, oh, my God, you're a natural at this. You got to shoot it. And at that time, there was the super squad of all these great shooters, Tony Holmes, Bruce Pyatt, the list goes on. And I'll never forget, I always knew Bruce Pyatt, as a big Bianchi shooter and a 3-gunner, but I never met him. And he walked up to me. I got off of one of these stages, and I smoked the long range side. And he walked up, and he stuck his hand out and said, hey, how you doing? I'm Bruce Pyatt. Nice to meet you. I'm like, hey, sir, how you doing? Nice to meet you. And, and he's like, do this. And I stuck my finger out, and he goes, that's one damn good trigger finger you got there. He goes, we've been watching you all weekend. He says, we're going to keep an eye on you from now on. And then I was hooked. I'm like, all right, if one of the best guys in the game say I'm being watched, and it's time. And then immediately some of the companies that I shot for already were supporting shooters in 3-gun. So I got a whole ton of support. And then the next thing you know, now I'm shooting 3-gun and long range. And then it just was a bad progression, because it's like, well, I'm going to start shooting USPSA because that augments my pistol stuff for 3-gun. Hey, I'm going to shoot, carbine matches because that helps my 3-gun. Hey, I better learn how to load this shotgun real fast. And so it went down that rabbit hole. And the next thing you know,
God.
Yeah, it got crazy. Like for a long time, Thursday nights, I would leave to go to work Thursday morning, suitcases packed, rifle case packed. I'd go to work, finish up on the range at work. I'd drive straight to BWI Airport, hop a plane. I would fly, land, Nordic Components. My buddies Jarmo and Kenny from over there would pick me up at the airport, take me to the hotel. They'd already have me checked in. We'd go shoot Friday, Saturday, Sunday, hit the prize table, get awards, race me back to the airport, throw me on a plane. I'd take the red eye back, get off the plane at BWI anywhere between midnight and 5 in the morning. I would drive to work, sleep on the couch in the range office, wake up in the morning, shower, brush my teeth, shave, and be on the range teaching, and go home, wash my clothes. And I would go sometimes 8, 12 weekends in a row doing the same thing between precision rifle or 3-gun, doing that. So It got crazy.
Yeah. Has it slowed down at all?
It slowed down, only for the fact that I kind of get bored with some of the sports, right? As much there's a lot of great competitors. We're all like family. We see each other all around the country. I see them a lot of times, probably more than my family, and it's great to see them and everything. But it gets tiring. Sometimes by the end of the year, I'm fatigued with that many flights, that much shooting. You got to remember, not only I have a family, I shoot full time. I have a full-time professional job. I have my own tactical training company where I'm teaching people, to shoot, and I own and operate Impact Data Books. So I'm running all those things. And then 2 years ago, I also took ownership of the Modern American Rimfire series, Mars, and I run the Mars series. So I run from 5 in the morning till 10 at night. I'm professionally mentoring 5 shooters that call me day in, day night. I'm working on them. Different students that come through my classes, they write, call, have questions, and like I said, I eat, breathe guns and shooting from sun up to sundown.
Yeah, I mean, the last time, I've been trying to get you on, but like you said, you've been shooting matches or training people on the weekends, teaching classes. So it's been crazy. I mean, we had a Scout Sniper Association event here in Fredericksburg. You were out of town because you were shooting one day and teaching another day. So yeah, it's been quite the journey just to get you on because you're so busy.
Yeah, like I said, I live and breathe it. I love it. Like I said, this weekend, double matches this weekend. The last couple of weeks, I've taken some time off. I've been working on my private range over here and adding a lot of different things in. I've added a moving target system in this week, and just being able to go outside in the side yard and work drills every night. I got some pretty lofty goals for the end of this year, and I'm working on achieving them.
Now, you and I have shot moving targets before, so I assume when you say moving targets, you mean moving targets.
Moving targets, yeah. So,
Oh,
like
wow.
I kind of scaled back. I haven't shot as much long range center fire matches this year and last year. I've been shooting enough to keep me happy. When USPSA came out with PCC, I jumped in. I got my Grandmaster in about less than 6 months. It was that I got my Grandmaster, and I started shooting PCC heavily, along with 3-gun and center fire. Then I kind of got bored with it. It was like, okay, I'm having good success and I'm having fun with this, but man, I hear about this long range rimfire game coming in, and it really got a hold of me. And I started doing some research and then figuring out what rifle. And then I heard about Voodoo Gun Works, and I called them up to order a rifle. And the next thing you know, they're like, "Hey, we know all about you. How about you come shoot for Voodoo Gun Works, and we build you a gun?" I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then
Twist my arm.
right? 2 weeks later, I met him at World Shoot in West Virginia at Peacemaker. Went up there and shot the rifles, not really sure, hey, are these going to be the right ticket, the right choice? And I could not believe the accuracy and repeatability. Learned all about the rifles. I think I got like somewhere under the first 10 rifles they ever built, my first gun. That's in the safe over here, and I just finally retired it at the end of last year. I couldn't stop shooting it because it's won so many matches, and I have 5 different Voodoos here. But I built a whole new gun, whole new setup for this year. But it's just so amazing to be able to shoot a rimfire. Most matches are in that 300, 350, that's that. But we've shot some matches out to 400 or 500 yards. And it's amazing to be shooting a 22 that far and getting hits and being able to be accurate with it. And a lot of people don't understand, like shooting a rimfire at 100, 200, and 300, it's like shooting a 308 at 800, 900, and 1,000 yards. So it's just a hoot.
That's crazy. I still wouldn't have believed it. I mean, when I was at Quantico, we had M40Xs. And the first week of marksmanship training, we literally spent that week in the indoor pistol range shooting those M40Xs. So we taught them the basics with those, and then we moved out to the normal known distant range. But now what grain 22 bullet and what ammo are you using?
So 40 grain is pretty much the standard for the factory ammo. You got some lighter ones for pistols, but most people are shooting 40 grains. I also shoot for Lapua, only on the rimfire side. I'm Hornady for everything else, pistol, rifle, shotgun, center fire. But I am a Lapua shooter for the rimfire side, so I shoot Lapua Center X.
Okay. Wow. What are you running optic-wise on your Voodoo gun?
Vortex
Okay.
on everything. Sponsored Vortex shooter. I started off in the early 2000s with US Optics. Went to Night Force for a year. Didn't really gel with the company. Like all my sponsorships are really personal, and I like to communicate and work with them. And for some reason, we just didn't have a connection. I think it was just too business-like. We lasted 1 year there, and Schmidt and Bender came knocking on the door, and we shot for Schmidt and Bender for 6 or 7 years. And then our rep left the company, and as punishment, they dropped all the shooters. And at that time, Vortex had a good relationship with us and wanted us for like 3 or 4 years. And then finally, when we left Schmidt, they was like, "All right, you got no excuses. You're coming on board." And I've been with Vortex forever. And honestly, I wish I would have left Schmidt earlier, because Vortex has been such an amazing company to work with. I do a lot of R&D. A lot of the companies we work with, like I have products all the time that people don't see or know about, and we're testing behind the scenes and doing stuff. So it's kind of really cool to get stuff that people don't have and be out there using it. And then some of your feedback or some of your comments either validates what they're doing and, stuff like that. So it's really cool to be on the backside of working with these great companies.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And Vortex is a sponsor of the Scout Sniper Association. So
Yes, they are.
excellent. That's a double win. Now, do you use Hunter's HD Gold glasses by chance?
I do not. I shoot for ESS eyewear.
Okay. But obviously you're aware of them, right?
Yes, I am.
I've always wondered, what if you took a rifle scope and replaced the eye lens and the objective lens with one of their, and if they made lenses for a rifle scope with that Hunter's HD Gold lens. I'm wondering because of they coat the lenses as they are now with a healer coating, but I've been curious as to how that might work. It was just a thought.
I don't know. Like I tell everybody, like I'm a shooter. Put gun in hand, point me in the right direction, tell me what you want me to do, and let me go. I'm the guy you want to give it to if you want it broken. If it passes the Tony test, then it's probably good to sell on the market. And I don't claim to be an engineer or one of those technical guys. I'm like, hey, practicality. Is this going to give me the edge? Is this going to allow me to have that edge in competition? Is it going to work for survivability? Those are what I'm looking for, and that's what I base my feedback on. I mean, I tell everybody I'm good for one good idea a day. Sometimes you get it, sometimes somebody else gets it, but I'm only good for one good idea a day.
Oh, so what colored lenses do you wear when you shoot?
Clear, always clear, even with 3 gun.
Always clear, really?
Always clear. Yep. You sometimes see guys use yellow or the orange Fitzsimmons lenses. I'm a clear guy. I want to be able to see everything that's going on around me. I want to be able to not change colors or have shadowing, because a lot of 3-gun matches, if we're running, if it's not in bays and it's in the trails and stuff like that, you get those shadows and dark spots, and a lot of targets turn gray. I want to see just like I am without glasses.
Interesting, because I like the yellow just because it enhances the contrast so much. But that goes back to this picture right here. I see. I'm doing it too. Like
Yep.
where it's over here somewhere. Because Skiles and I shot together on the rifle team the year that was taken, and the yellow really enhances the black circles on a bullseye target. So for like F class or whatever. So interesting that you just go with clear, because I definitely feel if I wear clear, take them off and put yellows on, then for me, it's a drastic difference. But you don't get that.
Well, so there definitely is a difference. I do see that you get that magnification or amplification, but I don't know if it's maybe just my eyes might be a little bit more sensitive, but I feel like if I wear yellows outside, especially in the sun all day, 8-10 hours on the range, I almost feel my eyes get fatigued and burnt out. And so I don't like to switch back and forth. I just throw clears on and I go with it. A lot of people you'll see will shoot with clears and then put dark tinted lenses on. I get out of the car, get my gear on, throw my clears on, and away I go, and I'm not even worried about it anymore.
Okay. All right. Now, what are you? So you said, based on what you were saying a few minutes past, it seems like your primary focus these days then is the 22.
22. I got to get back into. I had it was 3 weeks ago. I went and shot Outer Banks rimfire match down there. Happened to renew my USPSA membership, was running out Friday night, and I got online real quick and I renewed, and I seen some link and it said find clubs near you, and I'd been saying for weeks I need speed. I need some speed in my life. This precision stuff's great, but I just feel like I'm not going fast enough. And I just clicked on it. It said Fredericksburg was shooting the next day, and I shot Outer Banks Saturday, came back that night, switched guns, went to the safe, grabbed my rifle out of there. I'm like, I better clean this. It's been sitting here dirty for 2 years. Cleaned it real quick, threw it in the bag, and I showed up at Fredericksburg to shoot, and seen a lot of the guys I was hooking and jabbing with. They're like, oh, there goes the neighborhood. Tony's back. I'm like, listen, I have no expectations. I'm hoping just to survive the day, knock the cobwebs off. And I did okay. I made a couple mistakes. I had a couple malfunctions. I have a bad mag in the bag that I forgot about, and they screwed me up on a classifier stage, so it hurt me pretty bad. But I tell you what, it made me feel really happy to be going fast again. And actually, on the 6th, I'm going to shoot Outer Banks again on the May 6th, and I'm coming back to shoot Fredericksburg again on the 7th. Then I got some center fire matches coming up, but I'm ready to get some 3-gun action in and go fast. I mean, people don't understand, if you could shoot in 3-gun, especially as a law enforcement or somebody that's in the defensive shooting, it's the closest thing you're going to get to being in a gunfight. The stressors, the mistakes, working and triaging problems on the clock, knowing that every time you're burning seconds, it's costing you points in the standings big time. And I just love it. I just strive being under pressure, and I don't know. I think that's just like my drug. Shooting and competing is just, makes me whole, makes me happy. And winning's great, but going out there and seeing new shooters that you never shoot before walk in and kick your butt, and you're like, whoa, where'd that guy come from? And we're seeing junior shooters coming in and beating us on getting beat by 13-year-old girls or 14-year-old girls. You're like, that's pretty shit hot. Like, I wish I could have done that at 13. So our country's full of so many great shooters and great people and competitors. It's just awesome. I just love competing.
So what's your ultimate goal with all of the competition shooting?
I just want to keep shooting. I want to win. I show up at every match every weekend. I want to win. There's bajillion of trophies on the walls around me. This is a pretty big gun room I just built. I got stuff in boxes, stuff that was 20 years old. I'm like, I ain't gonna hang this stuff up. It's either broken or I've tossed a lot of stuff out. But the trophies, I really don't shoot for prize tables. I don't care about the stuff on the prize tables. Sometimes we'll take stuff, or I'll give it to other people that need it, or I got a guy at work that says he wants to get into shooting. I need a scope, and I'll pick a scope up, and I'm like, hey, give me $200. That's what it costs me in gas money or something, just to allow me to go out and shoot. But I shoot for trophies. I want these cool trophies. These match directors and organizations now are making some of the coolest trophies you'll ever see in your life. And so I shoot for trophies, and just to know that I competed at the highest level and I win, or won, or hey, I wasn't good enough this week. I need to get my butt back on the range this week and practice this, so I don't make that mistake next week.
All right. Pretty cool. So one of the things I like to ask is, and we're getting near the end. So, what does your make ready look like?
For USPSA?
Yeah, we'll go USPSA. What does your make ready look like?
So everybody has a process. No matter what sport you're shooting, whatever you do, you have the process, and that's one of the things I teach. My process is the same every time. Usually I'm smoking and joking, I'm helping, I'm laughing everybody out, but when I get about a shooter or two out, I'm focusing on what I gotta do. I'll step up into the box. I set my feet the way I want them to go. I go ahead, stop for a second, look through the course, rehearse my plan one more time. I'll make that draw from the holster, take my one step that I'm allowed if I need to, or get a visualization on that first target. Load, make ready. Take that last deep breath, rehearse it one more time, and then I'm focused on that first target, and I'm just waiting for that beep, and I'm hoping that everything goes as planned.
Well, Tony, that's everything that I had for the night. Was there anything that we talked about that you wanted to clarify or add to?
No, I appreciate you coming on, or letting me come on your show. I've been watching you for a while now. You're doing great things. You've always had a lot of top shooters and inspirational shooters out here to help shooters out. Anybody that's out there, if you're looking for training, I'm around. Once again, I own Impact Data Books, the Modern American Rimfire Series. If you're looking to get into long-range competitive shooting or rimfire shooting, come on out, check out Mars. We're on the East Coast here. You can reach me at any of those places, and I'm easily approachable. If you see me at a match, come up and talk to me, ask me what you wanted to know, and I'm there for you. And I thank you. I thank everybody in the industry, and I thank all the competitors out there, as well as the match directors and these series directors. We couldn't do it without them and volunteers. So I appreciate people putting in the work to allow me to do what I love.
Awesome. And that's impactdatabooks.com if you want to go and check it out. There's a lot on that site. All right, Tony, thanks again, and good luck this weekend.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Stay safe, and hopefully we'll link up somewhere soon.
Absolutely.